So I have my articles pulled up. Okay. So my name is Hannah. I'm a PhD student. I'm going into my third year. I did my bachelor's at York University and in political science and history, and then I did a master's in international relations and political philosophy. Today I'm here to talk to you about cybersecurity. I'm in no way this is no way my focus. It's been an interest of mine for the past about 6 or 7 months. So I'm very new to the topic, but it's very important nowadays. Every day in the news you see something about cybersecurity. Somebody got hacked. Somebody got their passwords stolen. Just the other day, Yahoo, I think 400,000 passwords were stolen. So it's been a very important topic in international relations. So the title of this lecture is Cyberspace, the New Anarchy. The internet, for example, is a common area. It's called what is called a commons. Like you'd have common fishing area, in the deep sea. You'd have the internet is also a common area. The cyberspace is defined by the Department of Defense as a global domain within the information environment consisting of the interdependent networks of information technology systems, internet telecommunication networks, computers, processors, and controllers. Um, so I'm going to divide up this lecture into four main topics. First, I'm going to talk about structural realism. This lecture will be framed around structural realism. Then I'm going to talk about the U.S. need for cybersecurity, U.S. attacks on countries, Iran, for example. Then I'm going to talk about the U.S. being attacked by the People's Republic of China. Then I'm going to connect everything to the Obama doctrine, and I'm going to finalize it with what I've done so far, my own research so far. So, yes, is cybersecurity and cyber attack worth studying? I would say yes, because they affect the distribution of capabilities and the survival of states within this anarchical international system. So, and considering this, cyber warfare is something to be expected, considering the anarchical structure of the world. So, what is the structure of the world? It's based on three aspects. The structure is composed of the ordering principle of anarchy, um, composed of units, and those units, their survival is their function. And they survive through distribution of capabilities, weapons. Um, Cyber attacks, cyber warfare is linked to the distribution of capabilities and survival. If you do not protect your cyber, your the secrets, which is all right now, everything is on disconnected to the internet through limited access websites, the Department of Defense, and so forth. So you need to, in order to survive, you need to protect this information. And I'm going to have an analogy, and it's not a very good one, but I think it's useful. Just imagine medieval Europe. You have a big old castle, like a very beautiful castle, and you have access to water through that castle. Imagine if you had a spy, he goes in and just contaminates the water supply, or he breaks it open, or he destroys the water supply. Your security is at risk because now you have no water supply. Cyber warfare is like this. It can cut off your defense, your access to electronic data. It can destroy your electricity grids, your communications. Cyber warfare and cyber attacks can do this. Um, so, in this respect, cyber attacks can destroy and compromise your survival within this anarchical world. Uh, so, yes, that's good. So, what kind of history of cyber attacks do we have? Cyber attacks began, I would say, the earliest one would be 1982. When a computer control system stolen by a Canadian company by the Soviets caused a Soviet gas pipeline to explode. It had a logic bomb in there. So when they took this hardware, they all they had to do is tweak the logic, the program in there to increase the speed of the pump of this control system, and that caused an explosion. So that's one of the examples. In 2008, during the Russian and Georgian war in South Ossetia, you had constant cyber attacks. The Russians had attacking Georgia, Russia, and then Ossetia, Georgia. So you had all this happening, and then in 2010, since 2010, the Indians and the Pakistanis have been attacking each other. So this is relatively increasing in use. Now you have uh, the Chinese in the United States, and then you have more. I'm going to get to this further, but the computer viruses in Iran. We're going to get to that. So, but fundamentally, these attacks are for espionage, sabotage, and destruction. They can shut off power grids, siphon money, disrupt communications, cut off power, fuel, water, disrupt the stock market, and even hijack drones, like military drones. The U.S. Department of Defense calls cyberspace technology as an emerging as an instrument of power in societies and is becoming more available to a country's opponents who may use it to attack, degrade, and disrupt communications and the flow of information. With low barriers of entry, coupled with the anonymous nature of activities in cyberspace, the list of potential adversaries is broad. So we're looking at nation states, we're looking at individuals, we're looking at terrorists. But for now, we're going to focus on the United States and how it uses cyber warfare to forward its own goals. In 2010, Iran was attacked by the Stuxnet worm, thought to specifically target its Natanz nuclear enrichment facility. The worm is said to be the most advanced piece of malware ever discovered and significantly increases the profile of cyber warfare. It has a self-destruct mechanism and complex programming that points to a nation state. 50% of all hardware that was destroyed by this worm was in Iran. So Iran was targeted. Its nuclear facilities was targeted. Um, Now we have the flame virus. It aimed at Iran and many other Middle Eastern nations, and it is a cost-effective way of neutralizing the enemy, delaying Iranian nuclear capability in conjunction with the assassination of nuclear scientists. So now I'm going to talk about cyber attacks on the United States and its interests. So China hackers, hacktivists, and drone hijacking. The People's Republic of China operates a political and corporate espionage effort directed toward assessing the networks of major financial, defense, and technological companies and research institutions in the United States. They attacked the Pentagon recently, and most recently the Gmail accounts of people who worked in the Pentagon using spear phishing. So you send them an email, you ask for the password to be inputted, they take the password. Um, many accounts are stolen, many passwords are stolen, and this really destroys. It compromises your security, in the sense. Um, Also targeted were Chinese political activists and other activists in several Asian countries and in South Korea. So they originate in China, says Bruce Schneider, of Chief Security Technology Officer at telecoms firm BT. But it's not just the Chinese government, it's independent actors within China. So China pays independent actors and they go ahead and they do their business. Lockheed Martin, a major defense manufacturing company, was also targeted. Um, and Google calls this a highly sophisticated and targeted attack on our corporate infrastructure, and it originates in China. So yes, it says it's autonomous, but I don't know how. This is not my the technological aspect of this is not my area of specialty, but they can find out where it comes from, which country it comes from. Uh, And again, about a couple of months ago, Iranian TV broadcast footage of an advanced U.S. drone aircraft that Tehran brought down using electronic methods to override its controls. Um, Now you have hackers that steal sensitive data, credit card information, emails, and so forth. Then you have hacktivists, anonymous, for example. And I know you guys heard that in the news, known as being a loosely knit group involved in a high number of online protests. In December, the group launched a campaign in support of WikiLeaks that disrupted MasterCard, Visa, and other companies. And this is what their goal is. We are trying to keep the internet open and free, but in recent years, governments have been trying to limit the freedom we have on the internet. So, seeing that cyber warfare and cyber attacks are growing, governments are trying to control what happens on the internet, who like just for security's sake, and these activists, anonymous, they're trying to reclaim the internet for the good of the people. So we see how that works. Usually, when you want to make something secure, like in the Copenhagen School of securitization theory, you call something a security. What do you call it? Can anyone help me? What is that? When you securitize something, it's existential threat. The government gets involved, the state gets involved, and that takes away from the freedom, the trade-off between security and freedom. As Ullman, remember Ullman, redefining security. That's what he talks about, and also the Copenhagen School. So everything is linked in this respect. I'm trying to do that, make a link between the two things. So how did the U.S., like going back to this, how did the U.S. respond to these attacks? Right now there's a bill in Congress that calls for a kill switch. That is, a bill was introduced that desires to extend the executive power to pull the plug on the internet. The president wants that authority to actively just shut it down. So what are you going to do about Facebook when that happens? That's my joke. Okay, the FBI recently, I think 2 weeks ago, shut down hardware internally as well as externally in the United States. More than 300,000 people, including many in the U.S. and U.K., lost access to the internet uh, as the FBI shut down servers used by cyber thieves. The FBI seized the servers in 2011 during raids to break up a high-tech gang who used the DNS Charger virus to infect more than 4 million victims. Also, in Canada, maybe about 6 months ago, they had a bill in the Parliament to monitor the internet to catch pedophiles. This, of course, was met with a lot of dissent. So that's two ways in which the government, the state, has tried to control the internet uh, to avoid cyber attacks, cyber warfare, thievery, and to curb activism. Uh, Also, I think most shocking is the military response that has been suggested. The U.S. is set to publish plans that will categorize cyber attacks as an act of war. That's what the Pentagon said. This happened about maybe a year ago. That there was a cyber attack by the Chinese on the Pentagon, and the U.S. responded by saying in a press conference that they would look to a military response if this was happening again. 2 days later, the Chinese did the same thing, and there was no response. So, in the future, a U.S. president could consider economic sanctions, cyber retaliation, or a military strike if key U.S. computer systems were attacked. Um, Now, the Army, the Navy, Air Force, CIA, and so forth all have cyber bureaus now. So it's growing in relevance. Um, so now,
No, it seems to me that it's like kind of the same mistake that the government made, for instance, when they treat like terrorists